Welcome back to part 2 of our super cool RAG demo series. Last time we set up an awesome backend with n8n and Qdrant with no backend coding. Today we are diving into the good stuffs, querying our system like a pro. I have got 3 incredible methods to show you, all using n8n's visual nodes, from basic answers to chatty AI agents with memory. It's all clicks, no code, and it's going to blow your mind. Let's get started. Like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be the second video as part of our 3-part video series where we are seeing about n8n with Qdrant setup. So if you haven't watched the first part of this series, I highly recommend you to go back and watch the video. I'll add the link to the video in the description below. So please make sure to check it out. And we are going to use the same setup that we used as part of that video. So we'll be using the same thing. So let's look at the directory structure. So once you clone your repository, you have to cd into the n8n-rag folder. And there at present you should see 2 folders. One is v1 and v2. And v1 is the folder that we used for the previous video. So today we'll be making use of the v2 folder. So let's cd into the v2 folder. And inside this v2 folder we have 2 files. One is our docker compose.yml file and another one is the system prompt.txt file. So here this docker compose.yml is same as that of our v1 folder. So you can use the v1 folder's docker compose YAML file as well. For completion purpose, I just copied it over to the v2 folder. So everything that is required for this particular tutorial is available in a single location. And the system prompt will be seeing where we'll be able to use it when we actually do the practical. So at that time I'll explain what it is. So let's look at our docker compose.yml file. So like I mentioned, this is the exact same docker compose YML that we used for the first part of this particular video series. So I won't be explaining in detail about this one. So if you need help in understanding this docker compose.yml file, I suggest you watch the previous video. So here we are creating 3 things. One is a network, which is AI demo, and then there are 2 services that we are creating. One is n8n auto and Qdrant. Okay, now let's go ahead and build our setup. Remember, since we are performing the volume mapping, our previous data will be able to reuse, so we won't be starting fresh. So let's build this. Since we want to reuse the data that we used for our previous video, what we will do is we will execute the docker compose from the v1 folder. Otherwise it will create a new volume, so we don't want that. So let's go ahead and cd into the v1 folder, and then I am going to execute the docker compose up-d command to build the docker compose file. And here you can see it is using the volume that is already there, so it is not creating a new volume. And here you can see it created 1 network and then it created 2 containers. Now let's go ahead and access our n8n server. Here in the browser you can browse localhost:5678 to access our n8n server. And since it will be reusing our previous n8n setup, you can just sign in using the same credentials that you configured during the previous example. So I am going to sign in, and voila, you have the previous n8n setup currently available. If you go to the credentials tab, you will be able to see the credentials that we created during the previous demo. One is our Olama account credential and another one is our Qdrant API account credential. Now let's look at the workflow section, and here there are 2 workflows. So one is this add rag workflow. So this is the one that we use to add our knowledge to the Qdrant vector database using n8n. And then I showed you a simple way using which you can access that particular data or retrieve that data using this rag query workflow. In this video, first step, we are going to see the simplest and easiest method using which you will be able to retrieve the data from our Qdrant vector database. So it is using the question and answer chain. This is the same method that we used for the previous demo as well. So what we'll do is we'll use the same workflow. So I'll explain this particular workflow, and if you want to see how this workflow is created, please refer to the previous video in this series. Now let's look at this workflow. So in this workflow, we started with a chat trigger. The workflow will be triggered when a chat message is received, and we added question and answer chain. So this is the simplest way using which you will be able to configure a retriever node. Let's see the configuration of our question and answer chain. Here you can see that it is connected to the chat trigger, and it will get the user message as the input from the chat node. And there are two configurations required for this. One is the model and also the retriever. First, let's look at the model, and here we have connected Ollama chat model to that one, where we have to first add the credentials for our Ollama account, and this is the credential that I have selected, and I have selected the model as Llama 3.2 latest. Now once you go back to the question and answer chain, you will see the retriever section as well, which is the vector store retriever. So we have connected our vector store retriever to that. And when it comes to the vector store receiver, we have to connect a vector store to the retriever. Here if you click on this, you will see that we connected our Qdrant vector store, where we have added the Qdrant API account credential, and the operation mode will be retrieve documents as vector store for chain or tool. Here we will be able to select the collection from a list of collections, and here we are using the collection that we created during our first demo. The collection name is Wonders of World. Okay, and for this Qdrant vector store, we also need to connect one embedding, because for retrieval also it will be using vector embedding. So here we have connected Ollama embedding to this one, so embeddings Ollama, and here also we added the Ollama account credential, and we selected the embedding model as Nomic embed text latest. So this is the configuration that we did for our question and answer chain retriever. So this is a very simple setup. So these are the configurations that are there. Under retriever, we connected the vector store retriever, followed by the Qdrant vector store, followed by the embeddings Ollama, and as model we have connected the Ollama chat model. Now let's save this one, and now let's test this retriever by using this open chat option. Here let me ask, where is Stonehenge? So now it will be checking the vector store, and it will be retrieving the data from the vector store, and you will be able to see the response. See, Stonehenge is located in Amesbury, Wiltshire, United Kingdom. And on the right side you will be able to see the various queries that are being made. The vector store retriever received this input, where is Stonehenge, and then it is able to retrieve the information from the vector store. Here you can see the Qdrant vector store, then the embeddings Ollama, which will return the relevant embeddings as output, and when you go to the Ollama chat model, it will use that particular information, and based on that it will generate the response that we are seeing here. So right on cue. So easy yet so powerful. So this is the simplest method using which you will be able to retrieve data from a vector store using n8n. Now let's go back to the overview page. Now let's look at the second method using which we'll be able to query our vector database. Let's kick it up a notch with an AA agent. So we are going to set up an AA agent node which will be connected to a chat trigger, and we will provide this AI agent tools using which it will be able to retrieve the data from our vector store. So this agent is going to be smart. It will decide when to query the Qdrant. So let's create this workflow. So I'll start by clicking create workflow, and here I'll have to add the first step. So I'm going to give the first step, which is the trigger, as on chat message. So this workflow will be triggered when it receives a chat message. So I'll go back to the canvas. So I'll just close this chat section. Okay, so now let me just save this. So I'm going to give a name, say AI agent RAG retrieval. Okay, so let me just save this. So I successfully saved this workflow. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to add the node which is AI agent. So in order to go to the AI agent, you can go first to this advanced AI section. So once you click on advanced AI, there you will be able to see this AI agent option. Okay, so I'm going to select this AI agent option, and here you can see it is connected to the chat trigger node, which it will use as a user message. And here we will be able to connect three items. One is a chat model, then memory, and the tool. So in this part of the video, we will not be seeing about the memory. We will be focusing instead on chat model and the tool section. So first let's start by adding a chat model. So I'm going to click add chat model. So here I will connect the Ollama chat model to this particular AI agent. So let me just select that. Here I have to select the correct Ollama credential, and from under the model I will select the Llama 3.2 latest model. Okay, so now let me just go back to the AI agent. Next thing that I would like to do is to connect a tool to it. So in order to connect a tool, I want to use one tool, which is this one, vector store question answer tool. So this is a tool using which AI agent will be able to retrieve the data from the vector store. So I'll select this option, which is vector store question answer. Here I'll be able to specify a data name. So this data name and description is just for this node to identify the data. So I'm going to give say world wonder data. So that is a data name that I am going to give, and description of data I am going to say details about wonders of the world. Okay, so just some information about the data. And here we have the capability to connect vector store and the model. So let's select this vector store, and here we have to connect our Qdrant vector store. So let me just connect this Qdrant vector store, and here also you have to connect the credentials. So this is similar to the first workflow that we created where we added the Qdrant vector store. So same method. So we'll use the same operation mode, which is retrieve documents, and then when it comes to the Qdrant collection, we will select it from a list, and we will be able to select our present collection, which is wonders of world. Okay, and like last time for Qdrant vector store, we need to connect an embedding also, because remember retrieval also uses embedding when it comes to vector store. So let me just click this add embedding. Here also I'll be using the embeddings Ollama section. So let me just select this, and here as always the Ollama credential, and the model I'll select nomic embed text because it is an embedding model. Okay, let me just go back to the vector store. So embedding is connected. Let me just go back to answer questions with a vector store. So here model, you can either connect a new model to it, or you will be able to connect it to the same chat model that we have for our AI agent. But let me just show you how to connect a model. So here you can click on AI model, and here you will be able to go for Ollama chat model, or you can also go for the Ollama model. You can either go with this one or this one. So any model you will be able to make use of. So let me just select Ollama model for this, because this doesn't require a chat interface or a chat option. So I'll just use the Ollama model, and here also Ollama credential is required, and here I am going to select Llama 3.2 latest model. Okay, so now our configuration of answer questions with vector store is done. Our configuration for our AI agent also is done. So let's go back to the canvas. So this is how our current setup looks like. So let me just save this. As you can see, we have our AI agent node, and we connected this answer questions with vector store tool to our AI agent, and that vector store tool is in turn connected to this Qdrant vector store node, and we also connected the Ollama model to it, and our AI agent also is connected with the Ollama chat model, using which it will be able to manipulate the data that it receives from the tool and generate the proper response. Now this is the second retriever that we can use. So let's test this out. So I'll click open chat, and let me ask the same question: where is Stonehenge? As you can see, it is now querying the vector store. Do you see this? It generated some response, but here the response that we are getting is something different. So let's debug why we are getting this particular response. So here, if you go to this Ollama chat model, this is the one that generated the response. So let me just click on that. I'll double click it. It will open that particular item. And here, see this one, as the input of this particular node, you see this message, where is Stonehenge? This is the query that I posted, and the tool response it already received. See, the location of Stonehenge is this. So what happens is, this particular node is getting executed twice, see, 2 out of 2, and it is keeping that response that it received from the tool and going to the next response after that. So that is why it is asking, is there anything else I can help you with regarding Stonehenge? So this is a common error that can happen when you use this AI model, because it can skip certain operations, and you will have to properly configure so that you will be able to avoid this. So let me just show you how you can avoid this. So let's go back to our workflow. Let me just close this. And here what we are going to do is, we are going to equip our AI agent with a custom prompt. So if you want to specify a prompt for your AI agent node, you have to go to that particular node, and under the parameter section you have to select this option, add option. And when you click on add option, you will see the system message. So this is how you will be able to associate a system message with the AI agent node. So let me just select that, and you can see this is the default system message. You are a helpful assistant. So we are going to manipulate the system message so that we will be able to eliminate the situation where the model will skip the response from the tool and go for the next step. With trial and error, I identified a good prompt that I can use as the system message. So that is the prompt that I have added under this system_prompt.txt. So this is the prompt that we are going to use. So here we are saying you are a helpful assistant, and when a user asks a question, use the available tools to find the answer. We are telling it to use the tools to find the answer, and we are specifically telling it to return the response from the tool directly as the answer. So we don't add it to add any follow-up prompts, any other question or commentary to it. Okay, so this is the prompt that we are going to assign to our AI agent node. So let me just copy this, and here under the system message I will replace the system message with the new prompt. a new system message. Let me just save this. It is saved. Let me test this now. So I will click on open chat and let me query where is Stonehenge. As you can see, it is now querying the vector store and you are getting the response back. See, this Stonehenge is located in Wiltshire, England, UK. Clear? Now let me ask another question which is not there in the vector store. Say, let me ask, who is Steve Jobs? See this one? It tried to get the data from the vector store. Since it couldn't find the data in the vector store, what it did is it generated the response based on its own knowledge. So this agent is smart. It decides when to query Qdrant. So it is a step up to our previous method where it is limited only to our vector store knowledge, but here it has its own knowledge also available. But this method also has one limitation. Let me just reset this chat session and let me ask the query where is Stonehenge once again. As you can see, it is generating the response and here it generated the response. And did you notice something? The response that it generates is not same all the time. That is true with the LLM responses. So LLM will get the response from the vector store. It will convert it into a format that it can present, and that format may differ based on the execution. So you will not get the same answer every time. So the probability of you getting the same answer every time is less. So that doesn't mean the answer is wrong, but the structuring or the format will differ. But if you want the data in a particular format or particular structure, then you have to add that as part of our instructions. Okay, so now this method has a drawback. Here I asked about Stonehenge. Now let me ask, say, what is its latitude? See this, I wanted the latitude for Stonehenge, but I am getting the latitude of SS Great Eastern instead. So this particular method doesn't have memory. So it doesn't know what you talked about previously. Now that is going to be our third method where we are going to add memory to this one. So now the real magic. An AI agent with memory. If you want to add memory, you can make use of the same workflow or you can duplicate the workflow and edit it there. So I am going to duplicate the workflow and add memory to the new workflow so that I can keep everything separate. So let me show you how you can duplicate a workflow in n8n. So here on the top right you will see those 3 dots. So just click on those 3 dots and there you will see the option to duplicate. So just click on that and you will be able to give a name. So I want to give the name as AI agent RAG Retrieval with memory and I am going to click duplicate. Now it will open the duplicated workflow in a new browser tab. So for this third method, the setup is going to be similar. We will be using the chat message as the trigger. Then we will be adding an AI agent node to it, and that agent should be connected to chat model and the tool. Now we are going to add a memory node to it. So you can click on this agent and here we are going to configure this memory section. So just click on this plus option and here these are the memory options that we have available for you to use. We have available to use with n8n. And here I am going to use the simple memory. So this will use n8n's own memory to perform the operation. So this is the option that we will use because it doesn't require any additional setup. So I'm going to use this simple memory, and I'm just keeping everything as default, and I'll come out. So this is the memory that it added. So let me just rearrange it a bit. So this is the memory that we have added, and that's it. Let's save it. So this is our third and final workflow where we are adding memory to our AI agent RAG retriever. Let's test this application by opening the chat. Let me ask, say, where is Stonehenge? Now it is querying the vector store and it is giving the correct response. Now let me just ask a follow-up question. What is its latitude? And here, see this one. It is able to successfully retrieve the latitude information of Stonehenge. See, in the query I just mentioned it's, so it should get the initial query. It should know that I am talking about Stonehenge, and it is able to do that because of this memory that we have configured. And if you look at the query, there also you can see this memory. It will contain information related to my previous queries. So this is how you will be able to add memory to your AI agent RAG retriever. So it remembers, no code needed, just drag and drop. So in this video we saw about 3 ways in which we will be able to retrieve data from our Qdrant vector store or to query our Qdrant vector store using n8n. Now these are the different options that we used. One is using the question and answer chain. This is the simplest and the straightforward option for querying, but it lacks adaptability and also the context, so it is not that flexible and it is restricted to our knowledge base. After that we used our second method where we added AI agent tools. So this method, it is flexible, it is intelligent, so that it can handle diverse queries and also complex queries, but it was a bit complex to set up compared to question and answer chain. There were a lot of nodes, there were a lot of interconnections, etc. And it can also be resource intensive compared to the question and answer chain. But still it was lacking the context, it was lacking the follow-up option, so it was lacking the memory. So that is why we went to our third and final method, which is AI agent tools with memory. So this is a method which is context aware, it is accurate, but compared to question and answer chain method, it is much more complex. And since the memory is there, you have to configure the memory, how much data it should store within the memory to be added to the context. So the context length also will increase, so please keep those things in mind. So these are the 3 ways using which you will be able to query your vector store directly using n8n. Here we are not using any third-party tool, we are not using any separate front-end tool, just the n8n chat interface to access the Qdrant vector store data directly. So we have gone from basic queries to a chatty AI with memory, all without a line of backend code. But hold on to your hats, because in the final video we are adding a slick Streamlit frontend and taking it live with ngrok. It's the grand finale you won't want to miss. So please subscribe now and get ready for the big reveal. See you in the next video. Bye bye.